So, where did we stop in the last class? We were talking about the flow control constructs. Like we saw nested loops, we saw break, continue, all such things, right? So today, um, first of all, I'll start with the arrays concept because I have to talk about for each loop. Actually, to talk about for each loop, yeah. But uh, for each loop is specially designed to work with arrays and collections. Yeah, for each loop is specially designed, and it is basically used to read the elements from the arrays and collections. So that's the reason why. So I have to talk about for each loop first of all. Let me try to do that. Okay. Yeah. But first of all, I'll talk about arrays. Uh, yes. I guess everyone is familiar with an array. You know what is an array, right? So array, it is actually used to store a collection of similar elements. Array is used to store a collection of similar elements. It is used to hold collection of it holds set of similar elements, I can say. Yes. Array is used to store similar elements together. Yeah. So now let's see how to create an array in Java and what is the need for that arrays. We'll just check this once. Just a minute, let this ID load. Okay, hi Prashant. Yeah. So I'm just starting with the concept of arrays. Yes. Okay. Yeah. Now, what is the need for the arrays? Let's see. You see, for example, let's say I'll declare a variable like this. Let's say int I. If we declare a variable here, you see this variable I, uh, it can take how many values or how many values can we store in this variable. I can say how many? Yes, only one, right? This variable can take at most one. That's it, not more than one. For suppose, what if I want to store five integer values? I want to store five integer values. So then what to do? Okay, you see, at most you can store just one value. If you want to store five integer values, then maybe you need to declare five integer variables like this: I, j, k, okay, l, mn, or something like that. Yes, but you see, maybe 5 integer values is fine, but if you have more than 5 integer values to store, let's say 20, 30, 40, so declaring a variable to store a value, okay, for each value, if you need to declare a variable, then that would be really difficult for us, right? Declaring that variables, maintaining that variables would be really difficult. Yes. So this is where we can go with arrays concept. So arrays can be used here to store set of similar values. Arrays concept can be used to store set of similar values. If you have to store more than one value of same type, then you can use arrays concept. Yeah. So now let's try to declare an array which can take 5 integer values. Okay, which can hold 5 integer values. So in order to declare an array, you see we use the square bracket. So the square brackets which you got here, you can actually add the square brackets before the variable name, or you can also use the square brackets here after, sorry, not before, after the data type or after the variable, this way. So whenever you see the square brackets here this way, after the data type, okay, if you see the variables this way, sorry, if you see the square brackets after the data type this way, so you need to understand that it is an array. Okay, we got an array. This is an array. So now we'll request the JVM to allocate some memory for this array. How? This way. New keyword, it is used to request the JVM to allocate a block of memory, you can say, followed by that new keyword. You see we have int of 5, which indicates that we want the memory to store 5 integer values. We want the memory to store 5 integer values, I can say. Yes. So now when this statement executes, what happens when the statement executes? You'll find that in the memory, a contiguous block of memory is allocated. You'll find that contiguous block of memory is allocated for that array. Contiguous block of memory is allocated for that array, and it is divided into 5 parts. That memory, that array is divided into 5 parts. It is divided into 5 parts. And you see, each part is called as a cell. We call it as a cell. And the index starts with 0. Index starts with 0. Cell 0, sorry, 1, 2, 3, and 4. That's it. This way, the memory is allocated. And this memory is divided into 3 parts, 5 parts. I'm sorry. Each part is called as a cell. So each cell here has got an index, and it can actually take an integer value. It can hold an integer value, you can say. That means now, in this case, so altogether for this array, how much of memory is allocated altogether? for this array, how much of memory is allocated? What do you people think? 10 bytes for this whole array. Actually, you see, each cell can hold one integer value, right? So to store an integer value, how much of memory is required? To store an integer value, how much of memory is required? Just a minute, please. Four bytes, I'm sorry. Yeah. So you need 4 bytes of memory. So that means altogether, for this array, I can say 20 bytes of memory is allocated. Altogether, for this array, 20 bytes of memory is allocated. So for each cell, 4 bytes. 4 into 5, 20 bytes. That's it. Okay. You see, the name of this array is ARR. The reference is ARR, I can say. The name of this array is ARR. Yeah. So now you can access each cell using the index actually. For each cell, you have an index, right? For each cell, you have an index. And you can access that cell with that index. Okay, you have to use the array name followed by the index of that cell, something like this. ARR, array name, and in the square brackets you can specify the index. In the square brackets you can specify the index. That's it. So that is how it works. So now let's try to access those cells and assign some values this way. See, error of 0, 12. Error of 1, let's say 34. Error of 2, let's say 45. Error of 3, say 56. Error of 4, say 88. Okay. So now you see, into each cell we are assigning a value. Okay. For each cell we are assigning a value. We are storing a value. So all these values are stored into that array now. All these values are stored into that array. See, 12, 34, 45, 56, 88. Yeah. Now we can read the elements from this array using the same way. Use the array name followed by the index. So I want to read all the elements. Of course, one after the other, not at once. So for that, If you want to read all the elements, you see, again you can follow the same approach. But what we'll do is we have a shortcut. We can use a loop, for loop or while loop. So I'll do this. Error of I. You know this for loop. So what we're doing, um, you see this loop, how many times it iterates? Let's see. So I value is 0 initially. The condition is I less than arr dot length. What is this length? Length is a property which you will find in the arrays. Length is a property which you will find in the array. That length, it holds the size of the array. So what is the size of the array? 5. That is the size of the array. Error of length 5. So that means the condition is I less than 5. So this loop, it iterates how many times? This loop, it iterates how many times? 5 times, right? 0 through 4, 5 times. So for each iteration, you see, I value will increment. Initially, I value 0. For a first iteration, I value 0. For second iteration, I value is 1. For third iteration, I value is 2, and so on. So this I value, we can use it as an index. I value can be used as an index here to read the element from that array. You see, for the first iteration, I value is 0. That means we are reading the element which is at index 0. And for the second iteration, I value will be 1. So we'll read the element which is at index 1. For third iteration, we'll read the value which is at index 2, and so on like that. So I value will be an index value. So we'll be using it as a index value here. And for each iteration, it increments by 1. That's it. So let me run this code. You see, I values are from, sorry, not I values. You see that values, these are all the elements which you have stored in that array. That's it. Okay. You know what? Here, actually, if you people have noticed it, I didn't write the code explicitly to generate this for loop, or that for loop code. I didn't write it explicitly. That for loop code, I didn't write it explicitly. So actually, we can generate it. Okay, I'll show you people how. So for suppose now you want to use a for loop to read the elements from this array. So what you can do is just type in for and press control space. Type in for and press control space. So when you press control space, you see it will show you content assist here, or auto completion. Content assist, I can say. It will show you content assist. So this content assist, the first one, what is it? It says iterate over array. Okay, the first option is iterate over an array. So you see, the IDE has got the capability to identify or to detect the array which you have before this for loop. Before this statement, it will identify if there is any array. It will check whether there is any array. You see, if it finds any array, then it will generate the code to read the elements from that array. So the IDE itself will do that. Okay, it will automatically generate the code to read the elements from that array. You see, iterate over array, and you have this code. It is identifying that array. So that condition itself will, is a hint for us. You see what it says? I less than arr dot length. Yes. less than arrow root length. So you can just select it. If you select it, you see you got the code here. We don't need to explicitly type in the code for that. Okay. Yeah. So did everyone make a note of it? How to generate this for loop? Just type in for and press control space. So when you do that, it will show you content assist. You have an option iterate over an array. Okay, you can just select it. That's it. So whatever the array which you have before the statement, now before this line, we have one array, right? ARR. There's only one array. Immediate array, whatever the array you have for that array, that ID will generate the for loop. Now we have this code. Now you can use it. SOP statement you have to write it. And for SOP also I gave you a shortcut, right? Sys-O. Type in sys-O and press control space. You see, you got this statement. And now I'll just add this code. ARR of I. That's it. Yep. So is it clear for everyone how to use content assist? So anyone got any questions or issues, please let me know. Any questions? Okay, good. So I hope this is clear. Fine. Now, you see this for loop, you people are familiar, but we'll try to work with for each loop. Okay, for each loop. I guess for a few people, it might be completely new. Let's see for each loop now. For each loop, you can think of it as a kind of advanced loop. So for each loop, you can think of it as a kind of advanced loop. Yes. Yeah. Just a minute, please. Just a minute. Yeah, I'm sorry. Sorry. So for each loop, you know, I can say that it is actually a specialized loop to read the elements from the arrays and collections. Yes, we only use it to read the elements from the arrays and collections. What are collections? You'll come to know about them later. Okay. So let me give you people the syntax of for each loop. This is how it works. So important notice here for each loop we don't use each keyword. We're not going to use each keyword. Okay, for each loop, we'll not use each keyword. Yes. Okay, so we'll use for itself. That's it. And we'll declare a temporary variable of array data type. So array is what data type? Based on that, we'll declare a temporary variable followed by array reference. We'll pass array reference, and you'll have a block associated to it where you can find the statements. That's it. Okay. Yeah. So I said we are declaring a temporary variable of array data type. Okay. That means here, what is the data type of the array? What is this array's data type? It is integer type, right? Yeah. Yes. Now you have to declare a temporary variable of type integer. That way it depends. We can create arrays of different types. So how it works, I'll tell you. This array, sorry, this loop is a kind of automatic loop, I can say. It is a kind of automatic loop. You know, you'll find that we don't need to specify any condition or how many times this loop has to iterate. We will not specify those details here. Okay, those details are not specified. Then how many times this for each loop will iterate? It depends on the size of the array. How many times this for each loop iterates? It depends on the size of the array. If the size of the array is 5, okay, whose reference will pass it? Okay, we'll pass the reference of that array. Okay, so the array reference is if that array is of size 5, then that loop iterates 5 times. If the size is 10, the loop iterates 10 times. If the size is 20, loop iterates 20 times this way. Okay, that is the first thing. Second thing, the for each loop, what it does is, for each iteration, it reads one element from that array. So for the first iteration, it reads first element. For the second iteration, it reads second element. So each time, for each iteration, it reads one element. What it does with that element, it will store it into this temporary variable. Each element will be stored into this temporary variable. Okay. So for the first iteration, it is first element. It is stored into the temporary variable. And then what happens? You see, the block executes. Okay, for each iteration, this block also executes. So that block will have access to the temporary variable. So you can use that variable. It holds that value or element, right? The temporary variable holds that element. Has got the reference to that element or value, you can say. So that is how it works. So let me just explain it with an example. Now let's try to create a for each loop for this array. I'm typing it, though I can generate the code, but first of all I'll type it. we have to declare a temporary variable, something like this. Let's say I. Variable name can be anything, followed by colon and then a reference, array reference. Just a minute. Yeah, I'm sorry. So we are declaring a temporary variable of type array. So here the array is integer type. So I'm declaring a temporary variable of type integer, followed by colon and the array reference here. That's it. So here now for each iteration, you know that so an element will be read from that array. It will be stored into this variable I. So how many times this for each loop iterates? 5 times, because the size of the array is 5. You see, we'll get an element, right? For each iteration, the for each loop reads the element, it stores it into this variable. So we are reading that value. That's it. So let's run this code. So for each iteration, we'll get an element and we'll print it. That's it. You see, got the values. So is it clear for everyone? So anyone got any questions, please let me know. So did I miss any questions? No, right? Okay, fine. So, this is one way of creating an array. Now I'll show you people the other way of creating an array. I can also create an array this way. Directly we can just assign the values. Directly we can assign the values. So for each can be used for arrays. So we are using it for arrays itself here. You got it? We are using it for arrays itself to read the elements, right? Okay. So this is the other way of creating the array. Now what is the size of the array? Can you people tell me? 5. So it depends on the number of elements. We don't explicitly specify the size here, but it depends on the number of elements which you got in that array. Okay. Next, yeah, we'll see that. I'll give you an exercise where you can understand this. Okay. Now let's create another array, something like this. Okay. So now, no, for each keyword will not exist. Okay, got you. So each we don't use it. Okay. For each loop also we use only for, not for each. That is what I said earlier. Note, or for each loop we don't use each keyword. Okay. I got a task for you people. I want you people to write a for each loop to read the elements from this array. I want you people to write a for each loop to read the elements from this array. Okay. Yes. It is, again, I can say that it is very simple and straightforward to declare an array. Sorry, create a for each loop here to read the elements from this character array. All you need to do is just type in for, press Control space. You see the fourth option here. It says for each. We have for each option. For each iterate over an array or iterable. That's it. So I'll use print method here. You, you got this code generated. We got the code generated. Yeah. So how many times is for each loop will iterate? Can you people tell me? How many times is for each loop will iterate? Yes, 6 times. So it depends on the number of elements which you got in this array. That's it. So this is a kind of automatic loop which you got here, right? So any questions? Okay, let me run this code. I'm using print method instead of println. Have you noticed it? You see what happens? Print method will print a value and it will not move the cursor to the next line. The cursor remains in the same line. Cursor remains in the same line. That is how the print method works. Okay, so let's move on. Now I will talk about 2D arrays, two-dimensional arrays. 2D arrays, or I can say two-dimensional arrays. Okay, so let's see how it works. I'll create a two-dimensional array. You know, this array is slightly different. Basically, you'll find that in this 2D array, we have two different types of arrays. That means not data type differences. We can categorize the arrays here into two types in 2D. Again, I can say that we have a main array and a subarray. Yes. So if we do this, let's see what happens. You see, as I told you people, we have two arrays. One is main array, the other arrays will be subarrays, I can say. Here, the main array size is 3 and sub array size will be 2. So first main array size is 3, sub array size is 2. So that main array, you'll have only one main array. That main array, it is an array of arrays, I can say. It is actually an array of arrays. It is an array of arrays. Array of arrays. That means that array, elements of that array are elements of that array are arrays again. Okay. You see, so far we have created two different types of arrays. One is integer array and character array. So the elements of integer arrays are integer values. The elements of character array are character values, right? But the elements of this main array here, in case of 2D two-dimensional array, you will find that they will be arrays in turn again. They are arrays again. It is an array of arrays, I can say. It is actually an array of arrays. Fine. So let me explain it with more clarity. Let's see. I'll show you people a diagram. So first, the main array size is 3. The first size which is mentioned here is the main array size. It will be 3. The main array size is 3. And this array name is ARR. So index values are 0, 1, and 2. This is the main array size. So now the elements of this array, you will find that they will be again arrays itself, but they will be single dimensional arrays. Let's see. The size of each array will be 2. And this arrays, I can say they are sub-arrays because the references of this array, they are in another array. They are elements of another array, right? See this way. So each sub-array which you got here, it holds integer values. It can take integer values. Each sub-array can take integer values. So each sub-array size will be 2. Each sub-array size will be 2, I can say. Index values will be 0 and 1. 0, 4. Yeah. Okay. So altogether into this array 2D array. How many integer values can we store? How many integer values we can store? 6 integer values. Only into that subarrays we can store the values. Only in that subarrays we can store the values. So in that main array, you will find that we can store the main array. You see, it holds the references to the subarrays or integer arrays in turn, you can say. Okay, fine. Now, how can we access the subarrays? So, if you want to access the first subarray, then what you will do? Array name. The first array's reference is in the main array, right? In the main array, at 0th index, you have the reference to the first subarray. So, that first index, it refers to the main array index. Now, the subarray reference, subarray index, I'm sorry, you'll give it this way. So 0, 0 means first index is main array index. That means we are referring to the main array's 0th cell. The 0th cell in turn, it refers to the subarray. And the second index here, it refers to the subarray's index 0 was 0. Yes. So that means we are referring to this cell. So let's say if I store a value, something like this 12. So it will be stored into this subarray cell. First subarray cell whose index 0. That's it. Now, if I want to store the element into the first subarray first index, so then you'll do this error of 0 of 1. 0, it refers to the main array index. In the main array, we have subarray whose index is 1. Into that cell, I would like to add a value. Let's say 34. That's it. So, and you can do the same thing for other subarrays also. You can access them similarly. Okay. So, error of 0 of 0. One, one, two. That's it. So this way, we can store the values. Okay. We have 3 subarrays, 1 main array. Altogether, I can say that we have 4 arrays here. One array is main array. which holds the references to the subarrays. That main array holds the references to 3 subarrays. Okay. So hope you people got it first of all. Any questions about this 2D array? Why do we need 2D arrays? You see, we can use it in many different ways. For example, let's say on a particular day, what is the minimum and maximum and average temperature recorded? I want to find out. I want to store the details. Okay, just I'm giving you an example here. So for a given day, I want minimum, maximum, and minimum, maximum temperature and average temperature of the day. I want to store the details. So we can use this 2D array. So what you'll do in that case, you'll declare an array this way, right? How many days? Let's say for a month, you may have 30 days, or let's say 30 days. 3, 30 of 3. Now what happens? So if I specify the size this way, so how many arrays altogether will be created in this case? Can you people tell me? 90. That's it. 90 subarrays. 90 plus 1. One main array, right? Altogether 90 plus 1, 91 arrays will be there. Out of 91, 30 arrays will be 90 arrays will be subarrays. One array will be main array. So in that main array, each cell of the main array, it holds a reference to a subarray whose size. What is the size of subarray? What is the size of main array and what is the size of subarray? What do you people think? What is the size of main array? Yes. Main array size is 30. Subarray size is 3. So we can store the values for suppose daytime. Let's say the array name is something like this. Maybe in this case you may go for float type. Array type you may take it as float type because you may have temperatures and points also. You may declare an array this way. Okay, float of daytime, right? So first day temperature, you'll do this. So see, it starts with 0 always. 0 of uh, 0. You know, beforehand itself you have to uh, fix the values here, like what will be the order of the values. Let's say minimum. First is minimum, something like this. Let's say 12 is a minimum. Day 1 of 1, let's say is maximum temperature, let's say is 30. Average somewhere 20, let's say. Just I'm assuming that's it. So on day 0, These are the three temperature values which you have. This way, to store some related information, you may go for arrays. Yeah. So hope your doubt is clarified. Okay, that is how 2D arrays can be used. Okay. Now, how do we read the elements from this 2D array? How to read the elements? Using a loop, I would like to read the elements. So how many arrays do we need here? How many loops do we need to read the elements? This is actually a special type of loop. So this is a special type of array. To read the elements from this array, you need two loops. Yes, two loops. So one loop to read the elements of the main array. The second loop to read the elements of the subarray. Okay. To iterate through the main array, we need one loop. To iterate through the subarray, we need another loop. So nested loops. So we have discussed about nested loops in the last class, right? So the application of nested loops is this is reading the elements from the 2D array itself. Okay. Yeah. So first of all, I'll create an array of size 3. Okay, without any confusion for you people, I'll do this. I'll directly specify the value as 3. That means this loop iterates 3 times. So I would like to use this loop to read the elements of the main array, or else to traverse through the main array, I can say. Main array elements are subarrays, right? We'll add one more array, and so whose size the array iterates 2 times to read the elements from the subarray. Okay, you got both the loops here. All you need to do is just do this I a of a of ij. So this main loop here, it iterates 2 times, sorry, 3 times. What about the nested loop? How many times it iterates? What about the nested loop? How many times it iterates? 6 times. For each iteration of outer loop, see, the nested loop, it iterates twice, 2 times. Nested loop iterates twice or 2 times, I guess. Okay. So you see, first of all, I'll try to display that I and j values. Then we'll use them as index values. Let me just print I and j values. Okay. I'll just print I and j values. Okay. Actually, we saw this nested loops examples in the last class itself, but still, once again, I'll show you people. Just a minute. Okay, I'm sorry. Let me do this. Okay. Okay. So first, I'll do this. I'll print I value on top here. Sorry. Okay. And then here we'll print J values. Can just check this. So I value is 0, J value is 0, 1. I value 1, J value 0, 1. I value 2, J value 0, 1. Okay. So that means for I value 0, the inner loop iterated 2 times. So J value is 0 and 1. So same is the case for I value 1. Inner loop iterates 2 times. J value is 0, 1. Okay. Yeah. So I'll just do this error of I of J. So we got all the values. So what I'll do is I'll print them in individual lines itself. Yes. So this way we can use a nested loop to read the elements from that 2D array. So is it clear for everyone? Anyone got any questions? Any questions? Okay, fine. Now I have got a very good task for you people. I want you people to you know write a for each loop to read the elements from this 2D array. I want a for each loop to read the elements from this 2D array. Yes, what you will do? For each loop to read the elements from this 2D array. Yes, you can. That indexes especially I can say. So I want a for each loop to read the elements from that 2D array. Think about it carefully and write the code. Okay. Yes. So is everyone done? Or is anyone yet to answer? Okay, no problem. Okay, so let me show you people the slope. Okay, let's see. So first of all, okay, this for each loop will be slightly different. So we need to declare a temporary variable, right? You know, we'll create a for each loop. First of all, we'll create the main loop to read the elements from the main array. We'll create a for each loop to read the elements from the main array. So what are the elements of the main array? Yes. What are the elements of the main array? What are the elements of main array? The elements of the main array are integer arrays. The elements of the main arrays are integer arrays, right? Yes. So, you know, here we'll declare a temporary variable of type integer array. Okay. Yes, ARR I can say, followed by colon. I'll pass the main array reference. So if you pass the main array reference, for each loop will read the elements from the main array. So we are passing the array reference, right? We're passing the array reference. So by default, you'll find that. So for each loop, we'll read the elements from the main array. The elements of the main array are subarrays, integer arrays, right? So now for each iteration, you're going to get one subarray, right? So in that subarray, you have integer values. In that subarray, we have integer values again. So I'll do this. I'll create another for each loop to read the elements from that subarray. SARR. The actual values are in that integer array, right? Subarray. We'll do this. Okay. So let's run this code. we got this values. So is it clear for everyone? So the main array will read that elements from the main array. So the for loop, the main loop, sorry, the main loop will read the elements from the main array. So the elements of the main array are subarrays. So for each iteration of main loop, you'll get one subarray. In turn, that subarray elements, we are reading them using this nested for each loop. So nested for each loop, what it does, it reads the elements from the subarray. Okay. So for each iteration of main loop, you'll get one subarray. You see, what are the elements of the main array? You can just check this diagram. What are the elements of the main array? You see, they are subarrays, right? You got subarrays. So here, for each iteration of main loop, main for each loop, you'll get one subarray. To read the elements of this subarray, we are creating another for each loop. So the elements of the second for each loop are integer values. The elements of the second for each loop are integer values. I can say. Yes. That's it. So that second for each loop is used to read the elements from that subarray. That's it. So is it clear for you people? Can we do cast like this? Int temp? No. You see, first of all, what you need to understand is here, this main loop, the for each loop, that main for each loop, you see, it is actually reading the elements from the main array. So the elements of the main array, they are subarrays, right? They are subarrays. The elements of the main array are subarrays. So you'll get one integer array. So first main loop, that for each loop, we're using it to read the elements of that main array, which are subarrays. We can't store the subarray reference in a integer variable. You got it? It's an integer array. So integer array reference has to be stored into an integer array variable itself. You see, we are declaring a temporary variable, right? It should be array type. So what is the array type? It is integer array, right? Yeah. An integer array which contain integer array references. An integer array which contain integer array references, I can say. Yes. Is it clear? We can't do that casting. Because the elements which you're getting here are integer arrays from that main array. Each element of main array is an integer array, right? Yes. So Still any other questions, please let me know. Okay, good. So hope you people got it. Fine. So this is about the arrays for each loop. So we have gone through various types of loops like while, do while, for, and for each. At last we have discussed about for each also. So now I'll show you people some exercises. I want you people to work on them. Just in the class itself, we'll work on this exercises. Okay. Just a minute. Just a minute. Okay. So all of you just check this question once and answer the question. Try to answer that question. Okay. Take your time, okay? Don't be in a hurry. Take your time. Okay. Okay. Good. So I got a lot of answers. Just a second. Okay. Actually, the answer is D. Answer for this question is D. How? Let's see. Here we have a for loop. It iterates 3 times. Now in this for loop we have a switch. In this for loop we have a switch. In this switch we have three cases. In the switch we have three cases. Case 0, case 4 cases, I'm sorry, case 0, case 1, case 2 and case 3. That's it. So you see this for loop, initially when it starts with the execution, so what happens, you see I value will be initialized to 0. So I value is initialized to 0, I can say. And then the condition checking will be done. Is I less than 3? Yes, I less than 3. 0 is less than 3. So the condition is true. So the control enters into the loop where we have a switch. The control enters into the loop where we have a switch. So here, okay, my voice is breaking up. Just a minute. So, hello? Is it same for others? Okay, I'm sorry. I thought my voice was breaking. Sorry. Fine. You see that switch for the first iteration I value 0. You see the control enters into the loop and the switch starts execution, right? So that I value, it is passed as 0 here. What is I value? 0. So that I value 0, it matches that first case. What is the first case? 0. It matches that first case, case 0. So for the case 0 we have break statement. Now the question is, this break statement, will it terminate the switch or for loop? What do you people think? Will it terminate the switch case or for loop? Yes. So this break statement will terminate the switch, not the break. Because this break statement is in switch. Because the break statement is in switch. Okay. Now, you see, the control comes out of the switch case. So are there any more statements in the switch here? I can say no. There are no more statements in the switch, right? There are no more statements in the switch. Sorry, not in the for loop also. No more statements. So you see that I value will be incremented by 1. Straight away it goes to incrementation part where I value is incremented by 1. So is 1 less than 3? Yes, of course, 1 is less than 3. The condition is satisfied. Again, the control comes into that for loop wherein you have the switch. So that value I value 1 is passed onto the switch this time. So is now this I value, what happens this time? It matches case 1. So this SOP statement associated to case 1 will execute and it brings 1. After that, you see there is no break statement for this case, right? So the next case also executes, case 2 and case 3 also executes. So it prints 1, 2, 3 for the second iteration when I value is 1. Okay, for the second iteration when I value is 1, so 1, 2, 3 will be printed by the switch. After that, you see there are no more statements, so in the loop, so straight away that I value is incremented by 1 again. So this time what happens, I value becomes 2. So 2, is it less than 3? Yes, of course 2 is less than 3. So the condition is satisfied. 2 is less than 3. the condition is satisfied. Okay, so the control enters into the loop, and you see the switch again executes. To the switch this time 2 is passed. Okay, to the switch 2 is passed. So this time that I value is 2, right? I value is 2. So that case 2 value matches that I value. So it prints 2, and then you see the next case 3 also executes. Yeah, you see, sorry, case 2 executes and then followed by case 3. That means 2 3 will be printed when I value is 2. Okay, when I value is 2, case 2 and 3 executes and they print 2 3. So first, for the I value 1, for the second iteration 1 2 3 was printed. For the third iteration when I value is 2, 2 3 will be printed. For first iteration nothing is printed, straight away break statement executes. Now after printing 2 3, I value is incremented by 1. So I value becomes 3 now. I value is 2, it becomes 3. Is 3 less than 3? No, the condition fails. So the control comes out of this for loop. And straight away it goes to this line 19, which prints done. So the answer is 1 2 3 2 3 and done. D is the answer. So is it clear for everyone? What if I want to break the outer loop, for loop? From the switch, I want to break the for loop. Then what to do? Label, yes. Go for labels. We saw that in the last class, right? You can use labels. Okay, yes. You can try using labels. We'll move on to the next question. Just a minute. Okay, so you see this program, here line number 12 which you got here. Please assume that it is semicolon. Sorry, it is colon, not semicolon. There is a typo. Assume that it is colon, not semicolon. Okay, it's colon. Yes. A. Okay. Fine. You know what? Few people may have doubts whether we can write a for loop this way. Yes, it is absolutely fine. We can write a for loop that way first of all. It is possible. Okay. See, I can do this. So without, yes, if you don't specify any condition in the for loop, yes, it is an infinite loop here. It becomes an infinite loop. Okay. Here, but there is one problem. Actually, the compilation fails because we have, yes, two break statements here. Because we have two break statements. Okay. Here, I'll give you an example for that. For suppose, let's take this loop. Let's say I less than 10, I equal to 5. I'll add break. Otherwise, we'll print that I wins. Okay. Now, here, I've added one break statement. So whenever the break statement executes, the control comes out of the loop. So loop will stop execution. There is no doubt, right? But you know what? Here, if I add another break statement in this for loop, sorry, in this if condition, within that if condition, if I add another break statement, then what happens? You know, here you'll find that the first break statement itself will terminate the loop, right? Actually, is there any scope for the second break statement to execute? What do you people think? There won't be any scope for the second break statement to execute. Because when the first break statement executes, the control comes out of the loop. That's it. So there is no scope for the second break statement to execute. That means actually this kind of statements which never executes, they will never execute. such statements actually they call as unreachable code. We call such code as unreachable code, which never executes. In Java, you're not supposed to write the code which is unreachable. That means the code which never executes. Okay, the code which never executes. That is the error here. You see, unreachable code it says. That means it will never execute. Not only another break statement, but any statement here it's not allowed. Any statement here is not allowed after that break, especially within this if condition. Especially if condition. Okay. So even this statement, SOP statement, is unreachable. It is unreachable code. So you cannot write the code which never executes in the program. You're not supposed to write the code which never executes. It is called as unreachable code. Yeah. Okay. So is it clear for everyone? So hope you people got it, right? Okay. Now, yeah, if there is only one break statement, then what will be the output? You see, I value is 0 and j value is 5. So the control enters into the loop. I value is incremented by 1. So I value becomes uh, 1, right? And the condition checking will be done. If 1 is greater than minus minus j, what is minus minus j? Means 4. If 1 is I value is 1, j value is incremented by 1, so it becomes 4. Is 1 greater than j? No, right? 1 is not greater than j. So you see, now this condition is false. So the break statement will not execute, right? Now you see the control remains in this inner loop itself, because always the condition will be true and the control remains in this inner loop. So it will never come out of the inner loop. So this is an infinite loop here. This is an infinite loop. There is also no closed brackets for the first. Okay, one, it is open here, it's closed. Okay, yeah, fine. That might be missing, yes. But I was, yeah, that is also true. Even that can be an error. But you see, if we talk about the logic, you see, the control, if there is only one break statement, still it will be an infinite loop. Okay, so it will never come out of that inner loop. That will be the answer. Okay, in infinite loop I can say. So hope you people got it. Yes. Let me show you people another question. Okay, so just check this question, all of you. Uh, you should see it on your screens now. Okay, think about it carefully. Yes. Is there anyone else to answer? Actually, D is the right answer. It's D is the right answer. Yes. Okay. How? Let's see. Yeah, D is the right answer. Let's see. So first of all, you see we have two variables I and j. So I value is initialized by 1 and j value is initialized by 0. Okay. So to that switch, I value is passed as 1. So that I value, does it match any of the case values? No. So what happens? Default case executes. And you see in the default case, it increments j value by 2. And it increments j value by 2. J value is 0, it becomes 2. You know, after this default case executes, what happens? You'll find that the next case which follows default case will execute. The next case which follows the default case will execute. What is the next case? Case 0. I think it increments j value by 4. That means j value, it becomes 6. J value, it becomes 6. J value is 2. Now it is incremented by 4. So it becomes 6. That's it. Okay. So after that, you see, after case 0, there are no more cases to execute. There are no more cases to execute. So what happens? You'll find that the control comes out of the switch case. And this SOP statement, it executes, which prints j value is 6. It prints j value as 6. That's it. So the answer is 6. So is it clear for everyone? So j value is 6. You know, from this example, what we can understand is that actually the case values, they need not be in an order. Okay, the case values need not be in an order. You see, the first case value is 2, then 4, then default, then case 0. So they are not in an order. And one more thing, default case can be placed anywhere. Default case can be placed anywhere. Yes. So these are the two things which you can take from this example. Yeah. Okay. So any questions? No, right? Okay, good. So let me show you people another example. Just a minute. Okay. So what is the answer for this question? Just check this question. Okay. Okay. Let's see. You see, I value is 0 and j value is 1. So you see if this condition I plus plus equal to 1. You see this is a post increment operator. That means for this condition checking, what value of I will be considered? Any idea? For the condition checking, what value of I will be considered? Yes. So 0, that's right. In case of post increment operator, you see what happens straight away. First of all, I value will be read, and later on that I value is incremented. So 0 is considered. Is 0 equal to 1? No, the condition fails, right? You know, here in this if condition, if you'll find that we have two Boolean expressions, two conditions, I can say. And what is double ampersand doing here? It is actually used to merge two conditions, right? It is actually used to merge two conditions. Okay, they are used to. It's an logical operator and which is used to merge conditions here, right? Yes, we are merging them. So we are joining these two conditions. So now when we use double ampersand, there is one thing which you need to understand. Okay, it represents AND operator, which is used to join these two conditions. The results of these two conditions, I can say. So first condition fails. What is it? False. You know what? If first condition fails, if it is false, the second condition will not be validated. Sorry, just a minute. If the first condition fails, the second condition will not be validated. Okay, this part of the statement will not execute. If it is false, if the first condition is false, the second Boolean expression which you got here, sorry, again, it will not be validated. So what happens then? Straight away the control goes to line number 15. If the first condition fails, the rest of the condition will not be validated, or the rest of the expression itself will not be validated. So if it is false, now you see straight away the control comes to this line 15. So the answer will be I value is 1 and j value is also 1. It should print 1 1. So B should be the answer. So if you use double ampersand, that is what happens. Why it will not evaluate the second condition here or second Boolean expression here? What do people think? Why that second expression is not evaluated? So yes, why, I'll explain it. Yes, you see, generally how AND works, AND operator works. If first condition is true and second condition is true, then the result will be true. If both the conditions are true, if used a logical AND, the result will be true. If first condition is true, second condition is false, then the result will be false. If first condition is false, second condition is true, then the result will be false again. If both the conditions are false, then the result will be false. That means if any one of the condition is false, then what happens? Then the result of that expression will be false itself. The result of that statement is false. If two conditions are true, then only the result, the merger of those two conditions will be true. Otherwise, in all other cases, it is false, right? So you see, that's the reason why, you see, if the first condition is false, that means irrespective of whether the second condition is true or false, the whole condition becomes false itself, right? The result of that condition will be false. So that's the reason why the second condition will not be evaluated, or it will not be executed. The second condition will not be evaluated, or it will not be executed. Because I plus plus, I value is incremented. But you see, this is a post increment. So always when this expression evaluates, it evaluates from left to right. First it reads I value as 0 and it considers it for that condition checking. But later on it comes across that plus plus operator where it has to increment I value and store that I value into that variable I. So it will increment I value by 1, stores it into that variable. But for condition checking it considers 0. That is what happens. Okay. In case of post increment, first I value will be read for that condition checking and then I value is incremented. Yes, you see, that is what you are checking here. That is the reason why I'm using this example to explain it. If you have this I plus plus, okay, then this is post increment. We call it as post increment because always the expressions are evaluated from left to right. So when the control evaluates this expression, first the way that operand, the control comes across the operand and then the operator. That's the reason why we say it is post increment or post decrement if it is minus minus. So in case of post increment or post decrement, first the control comes across the operand or variable I can say and it reads a variable value for that particular expression and it uses it for this expression. And later on it comes across this plus plus operator. After the operator operand, we have the operator plus plus. So it will increment the operator value. But for this expression or for this condition, it considers that the value of I initially, whatever value it reads. If it is 0, it reads 0. For that condition, it considers as 0 itself. In case of plus plus, it is a pre-increment operator. In this case, what happens? The control, when it reads this expression, first it comes across plus plus operator. So, and the control what it does, because it comes across plus plus operator first, it increments that variable value by 1 and then only it considers that variable value for condition checking. If this is the condition, then I can say that I value will be considered as 1 for this condition checking. Okay. Yes. So always the control evaluates from left to right. So you see the placement of that plus plus operator it decides what value of I will be considered here for that condition checking. If it is plus plus I, first that control comes across the plus plus operator, so it increments that variable value by 1, and then it considers that variable value. If it is I plus plus, control comes across variable first, so it reads that variable value and considers it for condition checking, and then later on it encounters that operator plus plus, which instructs the control to increment the I value. It increments it, but it won't consider that incremented value for condition checking. Yes, that is the difference. Hope you people got it. Is it clear? Okay. Any other questions? Okay, good. So, you know what? In place of double ampersand, we can also use single ampersand. If you use single ampersand, it also represents AND operator itself. Okay? Yes, that's right. The condition is satisfied. In that case, the second statement also evaluates. But you see, in case of you see, in this case, what we can do is we can use single ampersand also to merge these two conditions. If you use single ampersand, so irrespective of what result you get for the first condition, the second condition is also evaluated. The second condition is also evaluated. Okay. So if it is single ampersand instead of double ampersand, then what will be the answer? In case of single ampersand, irrespective of what result you have for the first condition, whether it is true or false, the second condition also evaluates. Yes. So J value will be incremented by 2. Yes. In that case, the answer is A. Okay. In that case, answer is A. So hope you people got it. I guess so. This should give you people the base for flow control. Hope everyone understood this. Yeah. Okay. So that's all. So in the next class, I'll start with object-oriented programming. Okay, we'll start with object-oriented programming. If you got some time, you can just search in online for object-oriented programming. Okay, yeah. So I'll stop it here today. So let's meet tomorrow at same time and we'll continue our discussion. So we got class tomorrow at same time. Yeah. Okay then. Thank you all. Bye bye.